I've been enjoying watching the Paris Olympics recently, and it's interesting as you look at all the different sports there are that people can participate in, such a variety of activities. Some of them have a little bit different social status, standing than others. You look at some of the maybe richer, high-class sports like golf, tennis, lacrosse, things like that. And then you got more of your down-to-the-earth, average person type thing, football, some of those other activities. So this video might be a little embarrassing because I'm admitting that I've spent quite a lot of time when I was younger watching one of these sports that's basically one of the bottom rung spectator events, which is professional wrestling. So my very first introduction to All-Star Wrestling was when I was at my grandpa's house. One morning he had the TV turned on and he was watching an interview with Baron von Raschke and Mad Dog Vachon, who were tag team partners. And I'd never seen an interview like that where they had such scary guys with such scary voices saying horrible things, threatening the other opponent. It was just new to me, and something emotional about it just stuck. I was very intrigued with it. And then as you watch the match and see how mean and violent they were and how the ref was so incompetent and was missing so many things, just as a kid, you'd pick up on that. So in my younger years, I watched a lot of wrestling on TV. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of my insights, some of my favorite wrestlers and some of my least favorite ones. And so first of all, as you know, in the industry, when you've got the hero, the good guy, those are known as the baby face. And then the villain or the bad guys are known as the heels. So my top 8 or 9 of each I'll share with you first. So first of all, one of my favorites was Tito Santana. I always enjoyed watching him. Junkyard Dog, tough as nails guy, one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. I remember the first time I was introduced to Andre the Giant, just massive dude, just blew me away how big he was, how strong he was compared to all the other athletes. Randy's Macho Man Savage is another one that's fun to watch. Another one is Kerry Von Erich. Just loved his style, his look. Bret Hart, longtime wrestler, really enjoyed watching him. I loved watching Jimmy Superfly Snuka jump off the top ropes and body slam people. Some of his acrobatic stuff he did was just amazing. Then there was the Ultimate Warrior, so entertaining, so much energy, hard to control. I've heard a lot of people in the past say they hated wrestling with him because he just was uncontrollable, he wouldn't cooperate, but still entertaining nonetheless. And then of course Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is to wrestling what Arnold Schwarzenegger is to bodybuilding, I would say. Just his popularity over the years. Then if we look at some of the most memorable, scariest wrestlers I remember as a kid that I hated to watch that were the bad guys. One was Big John Studd, big, strong guy. It seems like the only person that could ever handle him was Andre the Giant. Then there was Jesse Ventura, not so much for his physical wrestling skills, but just the sharp tongue. He was just such a good interviewer, such a mean guy. Then there's Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. He was always a good villain. One of the lesser known guys is Iron Mike Sharp. He had this armband and he'd always have some contraband hidden in it. So he'd like pull something out and hit someone in the throat or in the face with it and win the match. I was just always so upset watching him because you knew that was going to come. Then you got the Iron Sheik. Of course, this guy, bad villain, and he hated America so much. What's not to dislike about him? Ken Patera. He was a strong man, not maybe the greatest wrestler, but every interview he was angry and upset. And even since then, I've seen interviews of him as a retired person, and he hasn't changed his character at all. He just always seems one of the meanest guys. So he's always intimidated me. Then you've got Greg Valentine, the Hammer. This guy was just nasty and mean. He would go after guys' injuries. He'd always put them in this leg lock finishing move and make them suffer. Just seemed so scary to me. Then we go to the tag team of the Road Warriors. These guys were just so vicious. They would just come in and just within minutes, they'd have their matches finished immediately. Never saw a picture of him smiling out of character, so those guys were very intimidating. The scariest one for me to watch as a kid was Bruiser Brody. I remember seeing a match of him and Jerry Blackwell. He just went after him. After the match was over, he just kept attacking him with chairs, hurting him. And this looked real. I mean, I could tell when they were faking it and stuff, but I was scared for this guy's life, and he was out of control. His teammates couldn't control him. So those are some of the more memorable wrestlers, good guys and bad guys I remember from when I watched wrestling as a teenager. It's been interesting, though, to see some of them will switch from one side to the other just for the storyline to create more drama, more excitement. But some of you might be thinking, did you know that this guy who you looked up to, he did and said these horrible things? And yeah, I'm pretty much familiar with a lot of these guys. Maybe weren't the same person they were portrayed in the ring. Likewise, some of these villains maybe weren't bad guys. So one of the things I've seen over the years is interviews with some of these retired wrestlers where they're sharing some of their experiences and memories, shooting on some of the other wrestlers, what it was like to work with them. Very entertaining stuff after all these years to watch that. A lot of these interviews have been so interesting because it reminds me that they're not just athletes, but they're promoters. They're actually selling this. Their acting skills are pretty good. I remember the first time I saw Kamala, the Ugandan giant, and they said they found him in the interior of Africa, couldn't speak a word of English. He would just make noises and beat up his opponent. Years later, I found out this guy's from Mississippi, guy with a southern accent, just a normal dude, acting like that. Had me fooled as a kid. I remember watching George the Animal Steele, guy, hairy back, bald, green tongue, crazy dude. He would get to the turnbuckle during each match, pull off the padding, chew the padding up, and eat the turnbuckle. That's kind of his gimmick. Couldn't string two words together. And then to see interviews with him just speaking eloquently just blew my mind that this is a real person that was just putting on an act for that.
Acting! Brilliant! Thank you!
I've seen a lot of interviews with the retired Greg the Hammer Valentine, one of the scariest, meanest wrestlers I'd ever seen before. And holy cow, the guy has nothing bad to say about any of his fellow wrestlers. Just a class act. Looks like the coolest guy to be around. You'd never know that from watching him, his performance in the ring. And then you've got Bobby Heenan, one of the great managers of so many villain wrestlers over the years. Couldn't stand him. He was always so negative. He's always on the wrong side. But you see these interviews, one of the funniest guys, awesome personality. Just blows my mind that people can live these personalities for so many years and they're just doing an act. By the way, some of the commentating between him and Gorilla Monsoon, their banter and stuff, it's just comedy gold. It's just classic stuff if you've seen it before. And then also, you got to give props to Mean Gene Okerlund, the greatest mic man of all time. So many memorable interviews with him, standing there trying to keep a straight face during all that he did. Now, I'm not going to say wrestling is fake.
You think it's fake? You come like this in the face?
And that's not just because I'm scared of what David Schultz might do to me. Obviously, the sport is scripted. It's predetermined who's going to win. But these guys are still incredible athletes. I think there's a lot in their sport people don't recognize. They go year-round. They don't get any time off. Frequently working injured, travel like crazy. I mean, it's a brutal sport. If you look at the life expectancy in that, it's got to be the lowest of any sport I can think of. In fact, the majority of the people I've featured here in this video are dead, the vast majority of them at an early age. So it's a tough sport to be in. And my hat goes off to all the people in this industry, even though it might not have the same social status as a lot of other sports, kind of looked down upon, still incredible things that they're able to accomplish. So if you ever watched professional wrestling in the 70s and 80s, I'd love to hear what wrestlers resonated with you most. Who were some of your favorite wrestlers? What memories do you have? Feel free to list them in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say about that. I'm also super excited because this upcoming week is the CrossFit Games. It's something I love watching, and I'm going to do a recap of that in the upcoming week. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. Feel free to like and subscribe for these videos.